All right. All right, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Model Talk Tuesdays. I'm a lady named Pearl, and I'm excited to interview the guests that we have coming up. Jason Battle, the Chief Financial Officer for the Cut Buddy. And as you know, you all, we just opened up the school to males. So I was just telling Jason earlier that he's our first male. So young men, I have someone for you. We'll have more males in the future, but I'm glad that Jason agreed to do this interview. So Jason, thank you so much.
Yes, no, thanks for having me, Pearl. And I'm looking forward to kind of, sharing the story and kind of, good and bad of being an entrepreneur and, the process and whatnot, and speaking to everyone for sure.
Awesome. So we have a 10-week program, Jason, and in that 10 weeks, our students have to start a business. So they learn the modeling so that they can improve their posture, their confidence, know how to walk in a room, but then they have to start a business in 10 weeks. So what we start with is passion, when it comes to entrepreneurship. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Let's start with the beginning, maybe like the younger Jason, under 10. Let's start there. Where you're from and what were you passionate about before the world got to you? Like, what was Jason doing as a little kid?
No, okay. No, definitely. I'm excited about that for sure. I had to think about this, but it's been a while now. But for me as a little kid, so I grew up in Wilmington, North Carolina. Grew up in North Carolina, born and raised, lived there, until I was 18. But as a kid, like most kids, trying to figure out what I'm interested in. I tried a lot of different things, tried every sport, instruments, art, all of that. Sounds like a lot of kids, though, fell in love with basketball, fell in love with sports. That was probably, was my main activity that kept me busy, I would say, growing up. But I also had interest in kind of, in business at a young age, whether it was working at, one on my dad's side, his family, my grandparents owned a restaurant. On my mother's side, my granddad owned a barbershop. So whether it was working the restaurant and helping them cater food or at the barbershop, the cool part about that for me was, barbershops may have soda machines in there. And so that was my business. My grandfather, he allowed me to basically have my own soda machines in there. So it was my responsibility to go to Sam's Club or Costco, or wherever it may be, buy sodas in bulk, and then, sell the sodas there at the machine. And that was kind of my money, my profit. So that was my first taste of, entrepreneurship and business. And it was always kind of in the back of my mind. At that point, I was probably, from an age standpoint, at that point, I was probably, 8 or 9 years old.
8 or 9 years old,
yeah.
hustling sodas.
I was young.
In your grandfather's barbershop, 8 or 9 years old.
8 or 9 years old.
Ask you this: did you understand the concept of entrepreneurship at that point?
At that point, I did not, but I understood more so business. And I didn't understand business because I still a lot to learn in business. But I just understood that, I was doing some business. It was a way for me to make money, to buy clothes, to buy toys, to buy whatever it may be. And it kept me, provided that sort of income that I thought I had a lot of money. And, I maybe would profit $25, $30, whatever, but it was something, and it taught me some lessons and, taught me lessons at an early age. And I definitely think I did that probably from 8 to 10 or 11. It was kind of my first kind of business that he allowed. And, every, once a week or every other week, I would go and kind of refill the machine, and he would kind of give me, and he would give me the money, and I would go back and didn't have a car. So I would convince my mother to take me to Sam's Club, buy tons of soda in bulk again, and go from there. And like I said, I didn't understand entrepreneurship, but I understood it was a way and a business. And I saw him owning a business, and it was my mini business. And then as I got older, you kind of realize hey, I actually maybe was an entrepreneur at a much younger age than I realized. So it was kind of cool. That's why I laughed when you asked, what was kind of those first jobs and what was I interested in and how it kind of connected, because that's the first thing I kind of thought about. So I did that, the entrepreneurship business kind of with my grandfather, and then continued to play basketball though, and play musical instruments. Something I always think, is try out tons of different things as a young person. You never know what may interest you, what you may like. So try different things. Then went from there though, and continued to play basketball. And I went to Cornell University in upstate New York to play college basketball there.
Wait, hold on. Let me check your skills to see if you was really balling or if you was on the second string. So
it was a mix. It was a mix of the two. I was on the team. I started some to play the second string, but we won a few conference championships. So it was good.
That's awesome.
But
congratulations.
If you check my file, I was on the team.
Okay, awesome. No. Okay, so basketball is your first passion. Would you say that?
Yeah, I would say basketball is my first passion. I would say so. I would think basketball is my first passion. It, opened up a lot of doors for me, as far as relationships and also, leadership skills and, people skills, all those types of things. I would say I learned from basketball. And, I guess my case was basketball, but I think there's other things as a young person that you can do, or as adult, whatever, that can teach you those skills as well. But basketball definitely, did that for me. And that was my first passion. But I always knew in the back of my head that I probably wasn't going to the NBA. So I kept in the back of my mind, like, what else interests me? What else would I maybe want to do? And let me, take basketball as far as I could. And as long as it made sense. But I think, I was, smart enough at a younger age now, in hindsight, I would say, to realize that, like, hey, I may not make the NBA, may not do this, may not do that, but I can still, basketball can still help me go to college, help me get that next career, and whatever the case may be. So basketball, I would say, definitely my first love. I still play for fun, all that stuff.
No, that's great, Jason. I want to bring up a question that you just based on what you said. It's plan A versus having plan A and plan B. So when we talk about trajectory, when we talk about spirit, when we talk about will, I'm just curious to know from your thought pattern. I think Will Smith was saying something. I can't remember what leadership thing or quote I saw, but I want to say he said he didn't have a plan B. What would you say to that in terms of people that are going for a goal? And because sometimes I think about it like playing cards, sometimes you're handed a certain deck or hands, and you need to play your hand the best way. How would you speak to, plan A versus having a plan A and a plan B? Do you understand my question? Oh, Jason, I think you're frozen, Jason. We may need to switch. Maybe we need to switch to the computer platform. Let me text you really quick. So you all that are tuned in, welcome to Model Talk Tuesdays. We are with Jason Battle of the Cup Buddy, and I'm just kind of getting some foundation information from him. So before you cut off, I don't know if you heard my question, but it's the plan A focus, versus plan A and plan B. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on that and how you feel about that in terms of leadership and trajectory.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where, I know some people say go all in on plan A, and I think there's certain times when you should, but I think you also have to, be smart enough to use your discretion on how far can this go and how much does it hurt me to kind of have that plan B in the back of my mind that I can also kind of pursue, right? And so for me, it was, play basketball in high school, play in college, like that's going to hopefully, get my degree And then kind of once I get to college, I got to I'm going to school either way, right? So, and I have to spend time in the classroom. I have to spend time, in different groups and clubs and stuff like that amongst the campus. So there was no harm in like focusing on that plan B as well. I don't think it took anything from my basketball career. I think, but it was also just a smart move to kind of be prepared, and especially for certain things that, being realistic with yourself on what may be the next best step. And for me, I was honest. I was like, I'm not going to be a professional basketball player, but I think I've had like a great career and I've taken it, pretty far to a certain extent. And so I think, having that plan A and being able to commit a lot of time to it and being fully committed and dedicated to it is one thing. But especially at a younger age, I think there's so much to learn, so much that's going on that, as adults too, as my age, I think, I still have plan Bs and other interests and things like that, where I think I can still, maybe do this and maybe switch and do that. And so I think I think it's a really good point of having that plan A and dedication. But what I realized is there's things that kind of come off of that plan A that I may not have realized that plan A leads me to. And then I'm like, oh, wow. So plan A, really what I thought was plan A actually led me to plan B. And for me, it was basketball, networking. And then I realized, this is what's next for me. And having, that flexibility and stuff and being an open mind.
No, I think that's some good leadership tips. That's why I'm asking you. You have to have flexibility because sometimes your plan is not going to always go the way that, that you, at least in your head, see. So, okay. So you are the Chief Financial Officer for the Cut Buddy. Yes. So why don't you talk about this? How did you transition from basketball to business and then being the Chief Financial Officer for the Cut Buddy?
Yes, for sure. So as it kind of went, those younger business, basketball, leadership skills, as we mentioned, people skills, I basically used that and transitioned from, I knew I was interested in business. So when basketball was done for me, I decided, hey, I want to go into the business world. So my background is Wall Street finance, investing, learning businesses, learning how to run businesses, what makes businesses good, what makes businesses bad, kind of mistakes that people made. And from that standpoint, though, I always kind of had this interest in, entrepreneurship from when I was 10 years old. And so from there, basically, kind of the basketball, honestly, it led me to, and people knowing me there and kind of some of the leadership skills there and networking through that. They're like, hey, Jason, you used to play basketball together. I know you worked in finance. And I have a buddy who started this company, the Cut Buddy, and he's looking for someone that to come help and in the CFO type role or just the president type role to kind of help him grow this business. And from there, that's kind of where I am today. But it came from, the basketball leadership and having that plan B or whatever it may be to see where basketball kind of takes me. And I think this was definitely an example. And so the Cut Buddy was on Shark Tank.
Well, hold on. Let's because you had said some things that were key that I want to tap into. You said you worked on Wall Street and studied businesses and what worked and what didn't work. And I hope I'm not putting you on the spot. If you could tell us like 3 tips, on things that you found parallel on things that work for businesses and 3 things that may not be so good. I'd love to, tap in that space. Yeah.
And I think, some of the things that just come to mind right now is that are, work and matter a ton, especially as we've been talking. I think leadership. I think most businesses that do well have great leadership and people that, see the vision and know how to get there and create the team atmosphere for people to all have the same purpose and same goal. I think that's something that, businesses that have done well, I've always seen they had great leaders and they all were kind of focused on the same goal. I would say also, and it kind of goes back to flexibility. I think businesses that have done well, usually you set out to have this plan and think it's going to be exactly how you think it's going to go from point A to point B. and it's, no issues. And that's not how it works. There's always going to be something that comes up. You always are going to maybe have to pivot. And I think that businesses that have been agile have been, I've seen, I think those have been super successful. And I think that that's kind of been key for this. I think it's kind of like we talk about basketball life, businesses, all those are things that I think
there's a parallel. So you're saying there's a parallel?
Those parallels, exactly. I think, and you see businesses, whether it's I don't know, whether it's Coca-Cola, right? They start off with sodas, and now they also do lemonades and smoothies and other types of companies, right, as well. And in those types of parallels, or those types of, I guess, that agility.
Like Taco Bell is doing breakfast. Taco Bell has no business doing breakfast.
Exactly.
It's a pivot.
But they saw an opportunity, market, and business to grow and chance to grow. Exactly. So I would say those two stand out for sure as things that are not. And I think on the other end of things where I see people maybe make mistakes, and I talk about leadership, but I think also you need, on the downside, you just need good people in your business. I think that's huge as well. And I think that's another parallel from playing sports in everyday life, right? Whether it's your family or in a team, is you need good people on there to kind of move in the same direction. I would say that's huge. Something else I've seen though, is sometimes I think businesses try and move too fast. And I think sometimes I'm guilty of it, just as, not that you have more time than you think, but things take time. And I think that's something we sometimes think is like overnight success. But we don't realize that these people have been working behind these businesses for 10 or 15 years. And then you read the news article saying they sold for $5 million or $100 million or whatever the case, Okay. I think that happens a lot. Like, Cut Buddy, we look at some of our competitors or in the business, and, we'll be surprised, like they sold for this, sold for that. And you think like, oh, they must have been around for 3 or 4 years. No, they've been at it for 7 to 10 years, and that's from when they first started. So I think that that's something though, too, is people, getting a little anxious and not, wanting to stick with it, or, not necessarily having that longer time horizon, because all this stuff takes time. So I think that's something I would say that just kind of stands out, where like people making mistakes is like, I need to reach success and overnight or in the next year. And, you stick with it. I think it probably can be a 5 to 10 year. You'll be happy about it. And you have that time, as long as it makes sense.
No, I hear you 100%. I hear you 100%. Sometimes I think, okay, capital will make things happen faster. And I think in a sense, maybe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but at the same time, you still need to build the systems. You still need to understand where you're going. You still need to understand your audience. It doesn't matter how much money you have.
Agreed.
You can waste it, not understanding your audience and who you're targeting. Okay. So how long have you been with Cut Buddy? And tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, and so on that same note, actually, about capital, the only thing I'll say too, as far as where I've seen people's businesses struggle, is not having enough capital. You usually need more capital than you think. Business, all this stuff is expensive to operate and get those systems in place. But then also, another thing I see people is like usually try and get the capital before you need it as well. You need more than you think, but also try and have it before you need it, before you're desperate. And it's a hard lesson to learn, and something we still work through, because like I said, it gets expensive. And so you think you have enough and you don't, but try and, get ahead of it and try and lock in that capital so you have access to it. And it's not a fire drill and we need the money by tomorrow or 2 days from now.
That's a big pearl of wisdom that you just mentioned. Oh my gosh, you're getting me nervous just saying that. You get what I'm saying?
I'm speaking from experience on this one. You get it. You understand.
I understand 100%. Okay.
But
so tell us about the story. Tell us about the product.
So the guy here, Josh Esnard, he created the Cut Buddy. He's the CEO and founder. He basically has always been an entrepreneur. But for him, he had this template. It started with the hair tool. And it basically was a template to help like shave your head and like line it up, or if like for men to line up their beards or their edge ups. And so it's that one right there, and the second, the third one from the left with the two guys put in the bag. And so he basically had written it, yep, that's it right there. That was the original tool. And so he basically had an invention book. And from there, he was like, what can I kind of create? He had his invention book since he was probably a teenager, and then decided like this was the tool I wanted to create first. And so, as you can tell, it's a stencil. You put it along your face, and it helps get, the perfect curve or the straight line that you need. And it basically, he created the product, I would say probably at this point, 8 years ago. He created the product 8 years ago, got it manufactured, found a manufacturer, and basically did marketing, influencer marketing, via social media and YouTube, earlier, before it became this phenomenon that it is now. He was one of the first ones, and the product took off and went viral. People had never seen anything like this. And it's a simple but genius idea.
Yeah.
People had never seen anything like this. And so it went viral. And then basically why I know about needing the money before in the capital is because then he was kind of, out of stock and had a waiting list and back orders. And, we had to kind of go and figure out, raise money or whatever the case may be, get capital so that we can fulfill these orders. And so that was the first product. And so that product helped the company get on Shark Tank. Okay. And so that was the original product. It was presented on Shark Tank. And then that also gave us a lot of exposure. You can click out to the right there if you want. You got it. Yep. And so that gave us a lot of exposure, getting on Shark Tank and going through that process. And so ended up, working through Shark Tank and learning a lot through that. And it's always great to see these clips, and it replays on CNBC Shark Tank. The episode replays probably 3 to 4 times a year. So it's always good to see.
I got to get the reel for all of the people that's trying to get on Shark Tank. Okay. And so what really happened? So, one, the deal, you all made a deal with Daymond, right?
Daymond John. Yep.
Yes. And then, I'm sorry, could you tell us the deal and what Shark Tank was able to do?
Yeah. So Shark Tank, I would say, has been a great, was and has continued to be a great partner. Like I said, from a learning experience, from exposure. And so we did a deal with Daymond John on the show. And from there, he was been, extremely helpful, a great mentor to the company. And then also, not just from, a capital perspective, but also he's helped us in the past with his network, which is huge. Obviously, these sharks are, extremely well known, have invested and operated tons of businesses. So we were able to, help and use his network to then get, different licensing deals and then different meetings and can grow from there. But, it was a few deals, but, I think Josh felt the connection with Daymond John and his background, and starting his clothing company to having this entrepreneurial standpoint with the journey that we were embarking on. And so we decided to go with Daymond John for the deal. And like I said, it's been great.
Awesome. So you would recommend Shark Tank to entrepreneurs?
I think you have to, whatever fits you. And it depends. I think it depends on the business. It depends on what you want out of it. And, you can always go in there and not take a deal. But I think there's no guarantees you get a deal. There's no guarantees that you have to take a deal. I think for us, though, it was right. And so I think everyone needs to look at their business and, their goals and kind of see from there and see if it makes sense. I don't think it's a one size fits all box necessarily, but I do think for a lot of people and businesses, it has been awesome.
Awesome. Okay. So in terms of your different products that you have, I see that you all, have a catalog of products. How are you all, because I see that you're in Target, Walmart, and then I guess when you get to selling millions of products, and when you say what confused me is to fulfill the orders, if you get people ordering and they're paying, why can't you just, fulfill, you know what I'm saying? You have the capital. I'm lost on that part.
Yeah. So that's where it gets tricky. So I would say just take a step or two back. So we had the single product, the template, and then, and I think we felt like that was more so a product, well, obviously what it is. And we were trying to build out and create a company. And we realized that there's a difference between those two there. And so we decided that if we wanted to build out this company and build out this brand, and to do that, we needed more than one product. We had people that trusted us, that trusted the brand, they trusted using the template. And so now, let's create more products and have them trust us for more items as well. And so from there, basically, it's a natural fit. You're using the template and you're using clippers from other companies, right? So why don't we create a clipper so you can use our clipper as well? And so Josh is a great inventor. And basically, we created some clippers and trimmers and other items that kind of complement and built off of that, right? And so that's kind of how we got from the one product to kind of where we are now. And it's worked because people say, hey, I know you probably see it. I don't know. As an example, I don't know, Nike. I like their shoes. So maybe I'll buy their socks too because they're there, or maybe I'll buy their shirts or whatever the case may be, right? So obviously we're not Nike in the size, but just, similar as that. You build your customers' trust, you sell hundreds of thousands, millions of a product, and they trust the brand, and then let's build other products and create a brand and create a true company instead of being known for this one product.
Yeah, I understand. Now for us coming behind you, that's, trying to make sure that we do it better. And I see you in the chat saying Shark Tank sounds like it's worth it. Virgo Love 8979. I see you. They're asking, were you able to attend Shark Tank with him? But I want to know, would you say from experience, would it be best to focus on one product, let that grow out to a certain level and then build out a company? Or do you feel like, that should happen, as you grow?
Yeah. And so I think it was two things, actually. I think the other part I left off too, because this is it goes into your previous question of, how do we fulfill those orders too? And it kind of goes into so it's a little bit of a mix, right? I think, we got those orders, you get the delays, but you still have to put the capital up to get to create those products. And so we basically, I should have clarified, we basically we had some delays on delivery for sure, which happens to a lot of smaller companies. And so we had to stop accepting orders. Because, you get the products manufactured and produced, can take a few weeks, can take a few months, whatever the case may be. And so we didn't want to lose brand loyalty or brand trust by saying, hey, I ordered this product and I didn't get it for 6 months. So we kind of preferred let's just stop accepting orders until we can kind of catch up with everything that's going on. And I say between that, and there's always a lag, if you get into retailers, you usually get the order first. And then you have to go and produce the goods, right? And then they don't pay you up front though. So that's where it's you need this capital, whether it's debt or a loan from the bank, a line of credit, or if you just have the equity and money and get to pay for it out of your pocket. But you need that, especially because retailers don't pay you until you deliver. And it can still be 30, 60, 90 days because they have a whole process, right? And so you may get the order 6 months before and you got to start producing for 6 months, knowing you're going to get paid, 6, 7, 8 months down the line, right?
Gotcha.
And so between that and then, like I said, the cost of doing business, the orders coming in, and producing those products is never cheap. And so it's just, you need that extra capital more than you would think, just to keep business flowing, marketing, paying employees, accounting, whatever it may be, right? And so you need all of that to kind of keep things going. And so the other reason you need the capital, though, to get back to your other question, is because of research and development and new products. And so I think going into a business, I think when you start, I think you kind of have one product as your focus point, or maybe, as some people say, is like your mousetrap. But in my opinion, that you can build off of that product going forward. And that's why you want to create this business. So I think you need to get that one product that hooks people to the brand, builds that trust. But you have to know that product, if it's something that you want, let's just maybe it's something that's just patented, like, I don't know, medical equipment or something where it just sells so many of, or whatever, you don't need to build a business off of. But, and it's that still, but like you build, you take that one product, build trust, but I think going into it, you need to know, like, an example, a clothing line, right? Like, I'm going to make some really cool t-shirts to start and get people attached to the brand or liking the brand. But down the line, like, I want to make some sweatshirts, I'm going to make some sweatpants, I want to make some button-down shirts, all that type of stuff. So I think you need to have that in the back of your mind, how you can build the business out, but you should focus on the first, one or two products that are going to, get people trusting you and trusting the brand. And so that's kind of what we did. And we were a little delayed with it, honestly. We should have had the bigger thoughts and bigger ideas and bigger brand, brand growth from the very beginning. But we didn't, but we were able to kind of catch up and, and still expand the brand. So I would say it's a little bit of both. Is focus, get that first product right, but after that, I can build other products. Like, I don't know, like somebody who, if it's a trusted lotion company, then they, you may buy the same thing in a shampoo and a conditioner because you trust and love the lotion, or vice versa, right? And so I think, but they started off as lotion, or whatever the case may be, but things like that.
No, I understand 100%. And for those of you that are just tuning in, oh, hey, Lauren. We're with Jason Battle of the Cup Buddy, which was featured on Shark Tank. It is started out with one product, and now they have a catalog of products. So Jason, what has been the most rewarding thing? What's been the best thing about being an entrepreneur for you?
I would say, and it sounds a little cliche, but I would say just, that ownership, and that, because I don't think everyone should be an entrepreneur. I don't think entrepreneur's the only way forward or whatever, but I do think there's something huge about having that ownership, about taking pride in the products and what you're presenting and putting forward, and having your kind of, whether it's a food company, a consumer product like we're doing, a tech company, but being able to kind of go from point A to point B and express yourself and have an idea, and being able to create that product or that business that people understand and, there's a demand for. I think that, and then I would also say, I think the fulfilling part is you learn there's going to be ups and downs, and there's going to, all entrepreneurs go through it. You have your troubles, you have your issues with the company, but figuring out and like how to make the company successful, how to get over that problem, get through that problem. I think the reward at the end, once you do that, is just that much greater, in my opinion. Knowing that, you went through this and kind of figured it out, not on your own, because hopefully you have a team, or if it is on your own, but you kind of overcame that hurdle for sure.
Awesome. Well, this is usually a 30-minute interview, and we're a little over. So Jason, I want to thank you for your time and have you close us out from an entrepreneurship perspective, being that we're taking that entrepreneurship road. What keeps you motivated, and what kind of tips could you give us to keep us motivated on an entrepreneurship road?
Yeah, I think something we've learned from speaking to people in the business, there's a few things, but something that we've learned from speaking to people in the business is, when you're in your down days or the obstacles that you have is, it's usually not anything new, and you're not the only company that's going through it. Like, I think sometimes when we first was starting, we're like, oh no, we need capital, or oh no, our manufacturer's having an issue, our manufacturer's having delays. Especially during COVID, some of our products are produced overseas, right? And so the ships and things were delayed, and the items were sitting at the port. And you're like, oh, our company's not going to make it. How do we figure this out? And you start talking to other people who have already gone through this, or are going through, or are in the same stage of business as you, and everyone's kind of going through this at the same time, or has been through it. So I think like keeping that outlook is like, other people have done it before. They figured out these problems. They've solved these problems. And having that confidence that you can too. It's just funny. We go call a bank about a line of credit or lending or capital or something, thinking like, we're the only company that's ever gone through this, and like our hair's on fire, and they're just calm as ever, right? Because they're like, oh, I got a call from one of your competitors yesterday or 2 days ago going through the same thing, and we're looking at them like, oh, they seem so calm, like they've got it under control, and they're going through the same thing as us, right? So I think keeping that in mind, that you can get through it and fight through it and figure things out, I think is huge as far as like motivation to keep going. And I think, I think one other thing I would say is appreciate though how far you have come as well too. I think that's something I haven't done as much, is like we haven't done as much though. The company is like from where we started to where we are now, because you get so kind of caught up. And you take a step and look back and like, man, we've kind of already been successful to a certain extent or whatever. It's not where we want to be, but appreciate that. And also know that like, I can keep this going, because 2 years ago or a year ago, I didn't think I was going to be where I am now, and so that you can still kind of close that gap to get to the next step and to keep kind of moving forward. And like I said earlier, I think, be flexible, leadership. And, I think lastly, I would just say is, use your network too out there. I think that's another big thing, is network to kind of get to the next step. And, a lot of times people are willing to help.
Mm-hmm. No, well, I want to say, Jason, thank you. I feel like I didn't even ask you enough questions when you started talking about manufacturing overseas. So yes,
yeah.
I would definitely say be grateful to where you are, because, we're trying to get to where you at. You all are manufacturing globally, and multiple stores, have a national brand. So congratulations to you. Thank you for creating, already walking the trail. You get what I'm saying? Where
yes.
A lot of us want to walk, and giving us a few pearls of wisdom from your journey. So thank you so much, Jason. No, I would hope that we can do this again, because I want to get a little bit more detailed, actually, Jason, in the logistics of having products being manufactured overseas and what that looks like.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. Anytime. Would love to come back and speak more on it. And you have my contact information. I don't know if I had the questions, but if anybody had any other questions, feel free to share an email, or for next time, whatever you like to do works for me.
Okay, awesome, Jason. We appreciate it. And we still need that photo and bio, because we want to brag on our blog when we write up about this interview that, we had you.
Okay, so that's a deal. I owe you that. I'll get that to you for sure.
Okay, all right, Jason.
I will get that
have
to
a
you.
great day. Okay.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.